Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show with your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino. Yeah, pretty one it is.
Yeah, we're finally turning the corner, I think.
Yep.
The ground is only 90% saturated with water.
I know we're going to get another month into the season and go, man, we need some rain.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's,
that's how it is.
It's
Just
doom
how
and gloom one way to the other, and I love that.
There you go.
That's what I love. Hey, I wanted to tell all of our fans that we, of course, cannot do this without you. But I also want to just enlighten everybody to we would love for you guys to go to our website. And it's either ampsandaxescast.com or ampsandaxes.com. That'll get you to the same spot.
Right.
But on there, we have some great people that are our sponsors. And we need your help. I mean, we really need your support. And, if you click through these banners, Amazon, BarkBox, you can even buy this cool toothbrush called a Quip toothbrush. It's pretty neat, and it's very inexpensive. I was very surprised at the cost of this thing, and it's very nice, very elegant. So it comes with replaceable heads, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, nice.
And
I was speaking to someone the other day that went to Bark.
Oh, BarkBox, yeah, man.
Up,
you got, it's a pretty cool site, and the stuff is really good. I know a couple people that have actually bought some of the stuff, and they're like, hey, and I was like, well, why don't you quit your subscription over there and come over here? So anyway, that keeps all the lights turned on and the hard drive spinning, or virtually, because they don't spin anymore. They're just RAM. But, like I said, this cannot be without you guys. It would just be me and Jeff spending money and talking on the web if none of you listened. And, we bring you new guys, hopefully, as much as we can every week. And, like I said, we just can't do it without you guys.
Right. Absolutely. You, your friends, relatives, anybody that you can turn on to the cast. If you appreciate it and you have, like-minded friends or relatives. Yeah. Make sure they give it a listen, because we think if you like it, they're going to like it too.
Yeah, and look, if you don't like the show, turn it on to your enemies. You see
That's
how
right.
that works? That's a two-way street.
Set up a horn speaker in front of the house, just blast the show at them.
My nasally drone will cause them to, they'll just jump off the roof or something. Anyway, when you do tell your friends or your enemies about the show, we just ask that you tell them, hey, man, guess what I heard over here? You're not going to hear this anywhere else. You heard it here first.
Didn't hear about this guy anywhere else. Just heard about him right here first. And hopefully we'll bring you another one today. This is kind of tied in with one that we brought you in a past episode. A different member of the same band. Mm-hmm. This one happens to be the main singer-songwriter. And I really dig this band, and I think you're going to dig hearing from this gentleman in the interview. So we're going to take a pause for the cause and come back with a guest of the week, singer, songwriter, and guitarist. I know I say that more than once, but singer, songwriter, and guitarist from the band Honeyjack, Mr. Mark Summerlin.
Hey, everybody. This is contemporary jazz artist Denny Giosa. You're listening to Amps and Axes.
Okay, and we are back as promised, because we always keep our promises, with our guest of the week, singer, songwriter, and guitarist, and I love those titles, Mr. Mark Summerlin. Mark, how are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, like I always say, it's good to be had, but that's a whole nother.
That's a whole other. That's for another show.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, this is going to be fun because when I was doing a little research on you, because Mick was the one that had booked you initially, I was looking you up, and I went, looks like he's in the same band with a prior guest. So,
yes.
This will be fun. So, yeah, well, and I told him, and I'll tell you, I really dig the band, but we'll get to that. So right. we'll we're going to, if you've heard us before, if you heard any, of our shows before, that we jump in the Wayback Machine with the guest and, go take a little jaunt in history and find out where Mr. Mark Summerlin was born and raised and what got you into this great, wonderful world of music. So give us some history.
Yeah. Born and raised are two different places. I was raised in southern Louisiana, like Bayou part of Louisiana, in a town called Houma, Houma, and it's southwest of New Orleans. So I mean, like you go any further south, about 30 more minutes, and you're driving into the Gulf of Mexico. And loved growing up there, and moved there when I was 4. But before that. I moved around a lot. My dad was a physician. He was doing some medical research and kind of moved around wherever that stuff took him. So I was born in Palo Alto, California. Don't remember any of that. Moved to Minnesota. Barely remember any of that. Moved to Connecticut, where he worked in New York. I remember some of that, but then by the time I was 4 years old, there I was in Louisiana, and that's kind of where I think of as home.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And
there's not much in anybody's memory banks before 4, I don't think.
I maybe it's just not worth remembering. I don't know. Don't know how that works. But I do remember right before my 5th birthday, seeing this little pile of mud on the ground and seeing this red crustacean with big claws climb out of it, and it scared the heck out of me then. And now I love crawfish probably more than anything. So
there you go.
But yeah, so grew up there and got into music, pretty much early on because my family was very much a musical family.
So your dad was in the medical field as well as a musician.
Yeah, I mean, he as a profession, went into medicine straight away, but in high school and on the side, he always sang. He was a tenor, like in a barbershop quartet. Played the trumpet in a band. I forget when that was. I've seen pictures of it. And he played trumpet in a band. And he and my mom met in a community choir. So they met, and they both were singing. And
through music, yeah. Wow.
She was a soprano.
Oh, very nice.
And
very nice.
We had no choice. It was me and my brothers. And so we grew up and we were singing pretty much from day one.
Wow. That's really cool. And, outside of NOLA, no shortage of musical influences there.
No. And it's one of those things that when you live there, you don't really think about it. I thought about it was always there, and there was so much musical history there up and down the Mississippi River, and straight down to New Orleans, and even different where I grew up, even though it's only about 30, 40 minutes away. Cajun music is even more different than the stuff that's in New Orleans. And so I think I appreciated it much more when I didn't live there, like later in life, as we do with a lot of things, I
for sure.
I was like, man, that was really kind of cool, for that all to be around me. But I guess you're soaking it in, I don't know. Influences just come out in the weirdest ways.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like you were saying, or sort of what you're saying, you really might not even know that you're influenced by it, until years later, when you go, oh, maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah, it does.
Which is really cool, really cool. It tells, I think it tells a lot about, or tells something about where the person came from, whether they know it or not. Everything gets pushed into our brains, influences in some way or other,
Yeah.
And
and it's also just like if you're writing a song and then you listen back to it and go, man, that is basically the midsection to this other song. And you can't help it. I mean, your influences are there. And,
right.
What are you going to do? Sue me.
I mean, if that goes far enough, people have gotten sued over it, and it's totally subconscious too.
Yeah. And let's hope that problem happens.
Right. That's right.
Unless you're George Harrison.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, nobody needed to know his name, but if it happens to somebody whose name is not well known, well, hey, that's the break that was supposed to happen.
Yeah, that's danger of that territory.
That's pretty cool. So, so you were, singing because your parents were singing. When did you pick up an instrument, and what was the first one?
Pretty early on. I'm the youngest of three boys. We would later go on and all be in a band together around the college years. But we'll get to that. I picked up the guitar, I think, when I was 6. I started taking lessons when I was 7. I remember you guys were talking to TJ last week and how often you guys hear about how horrible the instruments were that people start on.
Right.
I mean, mine was okay. What's funny is I was laughing. Mine was all right. It was a kid-sized guitar.
Okay.
But I think it was a Hondo. I think it's the ones that you get at Sears.
Okay.
And it was all right.
Probably like a 3/4 scale,
Yeah. And it was all right. I mean, I think the first thing, you learn your favorite songs, or you try to, as everyone does. But I think the first thing I thought you were supposed to do was write songs. So for me, it was just something to write a song on. And I later would play saxophone, and I've heard Joe Walsh say the same thing. He played sax or clarinet or something. He said, you can't really write a song on it because it plays one note at a time. And so that's what I figured out. I was like, well, I need to play this guitar if I'm going to write songs. So that's kind of what the guitar was for me, but it wasn't,
That's pretty cool. I hadn't heard that before. And, it does make sense. Of course, anything that plays one note, you can write a melody line on, but can't go much further than that.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
And my clarinet is not polyphonic.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's 2018. It's probably not too far off before that's happening. That's true.
All right, so you're now 6 or 7. You have an acoustic guitar. You're writing songs.
Yep.
When did you amaze your family and friends and start putting it out there and trying to get together with other people and make some cacophony together?
Yeah, immediately.
Immediately. There you go.
Yeah. So my brothers and I would even when you're just little kids, we would put on concerts. We'd either be trying to put on a concert of songs we wrote, or we'd be cranking like live records up in our room. I know you guys talked about Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2 last week with TJ, and those albums have done obviously so much. You guys must hear someone refer to those albums every week.
Quite often.
Mm-hmm. And what's weird? There was another one. It was the Styx album. I know there's just something about Styx. I think it was so like you could see what was going on. It was just so like colorful and storytelling and man, we would just whatever we had to act like instruments, or if it was real or fake, we would jump around the rooms and just go crazy. So if we weren't playing our own stuff, we were miming to someone else's album. But then in grade school, little bands with whoever. And what's a band when you're in grade school? You're just playing in someone's living room.
Right.
And then high school, start to play at parties, and it just kind of goes from there. And I knew that's what I wanted to do.
So you guys were like the Lost Lonely Boys.
Yes, sure. Yeah, in a way.
Three brothers that,
Yeah.
That's cool.
And kept going. I mean, that's the craziest thing is that ultimately we moved to Northwest Arkansas, which is where I ran into TJ, and we started Honeyjack. But back back catching up where we were in our story. Me and my brothers were and a friend from Louisiana, a great drummer. We were in a band called B, and it was just spelled B-E. And we played for 13 years, and we put out 5 albums and
Wow.
did the whole thing. Do the thing where you chase the record deal and play college towns and tour the United States in a van. And so we did that whole bit, and pretty much most of the time, all 3 brothers were involved. So that was kind of cool.
That's really cool. And I, for whatever reason, I really like that name.
Well, thanks.
I really like that name.
We thought it was all right before the internet existed. It seemed like we liked names like Yes and Rush and Kiss. Like one word, powerful. Mm-hmm. But once Google was invented, of course, we remember when you used to make flyers and post them up on telephone.
Oh, hell yeah.
With staple guns.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't even know if staple guns or telephone poles exist anymore. but
the telephone poles exist. They're just really tall and all metal.
Yeah. You can't staple stuff to it. It doesn't work.
Right.
And no one would even know what a flyer is anyway. Because what's the word post mean now? It means you post it online.
Yeah.
So, God, are we old? This is horrible. Half of your young audience just changed the channel. But no,
they're going to Google telephone pole.
They're going to Google staple gun.
Staple.
Mom, you'd be like, Granddad, what's a flyer?
Right.
So we did that whole thing, but once the internet happened, try searching for the word B, B-E. Unless you had already established some kind of traction there, like Yes or Kiss or Rush.
Right.
That's not going to happen. So that wasn't the easiest transition, but we kept the name and really didn't stay together that much longer. And then we broke up in
the band turned into Was.
Yes, exactly. Was. Someone right now, just so you know, I hope you get credit. Someone right now just named their band that. I should probably tell them, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Right. You'll never get found on Google.
You'll never get used. Google the word Was. But played, and then, but B was together for so long, and we kind of flirted with record labels for a while, and maybe had a publishing deal for a day or two. It's a very common story. We knew a lot of the bands getting signed at the time, a lot of college bands. Better Than Ezra, Deep Blue Something, the Nixons. There were a lot of bands coming out that we would see at multi-band events, and our music was a tough one. It was a tough one to categorize, and it just didn't work out, and I understand. But we made a lot of friends and a lot of connections, and ultimately some of those connections would go on and get me into a situation where I was able to go on tour and play with Seal.
I was going to ask you how that happened, because you were a guitarist and musical director, right?
Yes, I was. I was guitarist and musical director for Seal.
Now let me just back up for a second. Musical director. Did you have any formal education besides some lessons? I mean, did you have anything formal?
Yeah, I mean, not as formal as some. I mean, because I've seen how far that goes. I mean, I definitely grew up in a classical household and could read music and that sort of thing. But no, a lot of that stuff was he trusted me to organize rehearsals and tell people what to do and be the voice of him when he wasn't there. So that's really kind of what that job entails. Is he just wanted someone to deal with stuff when he didn't have time to deal with it.
And how did that relationship develop? How did that come about?
It came about two cliches, I guess. One, it's who you know, and two, it's right place, right time. And one of those, in the who you know, there was a guy here in the area from Fort Smith. I'll go ahead and give him a shout out. He's out on tour on the crew with the Eagles. His name's Clay Janes. He had gotten ahead in the whole niche world of when bigger shows started to use playback. You know, of course, it started out as like they would play back stuff on reel-to-reel tapes. Mm-hmm. And then it went on to now, you know, it's music software like Pro Tools or Digital Performer. He was just on the cutting edge of that and got into that niche when it wasn't, like before it really was a job description. And so got on some major tours. And I kind of came up learning all that stuff as well. So I learned, we went from being in real studios in Nashville to seeing when those studios went away. And then everyone had, well, I can do some of this in a box. Now, you and I know that's not really the same, but you can fake it pretty good now. And I kept up with that software. And basically one day I had to fill in for him. He said, man, I need someone who knows yada, yada, whatever software it was at the time. And he had been double booked. And he called me. And there I was, you know, filling in for him on some of these gigs. The first one I did playback for, filling in for him, was on the Black Eyed Peas. So
wow,
there with a you know, hip-hop.
No pressure there.
No, they haven't sold out anything.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it was weird, and it was a private show. It was at the Beverly Hills, Wilshire, one of those hotels you see on TV all the time. And they were just doing 6 songs, and he was like, man, it's 6 songs, you got it, no problem. You know, I mean, you just kind of get thrown in there, and you just figure it out. And that goes well, everybody gets comfortable with you, and next thing you know, you're on tour with them for a year.
Wow.
So that's kind of how that works. Well, one of his other accounts, for lack of a better word, one of his clients was Seal. And he was filling in for another guy on Seal. Ultimately, I would be doing that, and then ultimately I would be on tour with Seal as part of the production crew. And I was doing everything from keyboard teching to running the playback rigs off stage. And this is a really long answer to your question.
No, it's fine. You know, this is the deep inside stuff that's really cool.
Yeah, well, man. I mean, again, a lot of people wonder how the you know, what's behind the curtain and how it all works. I mean, it's really as simple as that. And then there comes a day when he's got an album coming out that's kind of a dance-based record anyway. This would have been like in 2008, 2007 or 8. And he's got this record coming out. I think it's a really cool record. It's called System, and it's very dancey. You know, I mean, I know that's not for everybody, but this one's got some cool stuff on it. And so this tour is about to happen, and he doesn't really have a band together at this particular time. And so they decide to do this thing where it's going to be sort of in the box because it's mostly dance music anyway. And he's kind of singing sort of karaoke with like a DJ behind him. And there was a DJ that they were going to use for this who had done some remixes for him, and he lived in St. Louis. Well, no, I forgot where he lived at the time. Josh Harris is his name, great guy. And then, so Josh Harris was going to be this DJ behind Seal. And then, as luck would have it, Seal would always like to go out front with an acoustic guitar. He's kind of by nature an acoustic guitar player, writes on an acoustic. He plays right side strung, but upside down. So he plays left-handed.
Oh, okay.
Look at that.
So you can just trade a guitar with him, and he can play the same guitar, but he flips it over.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so he would always want to break his show down and just kind of go out front and play some of his older stuff. Well, there was a song on the new album that he was having a hard time play. And someone on the crew, I think it was his guitar tech, said, hey, well, give it to Mark. And so I was like, okay, you know how to play it? And I was like, yeah. And so I kind of helped him play this part. And he said, great. You have another guitar because you're going to be playing it with me tonight, you know? And now, I mean, this is like some corporate show. It's probably in front of, I don't know, in front of a couple hundred people. Half of them are kind of, talking to each other or whatever. But those corporate private events get weird. And that's a whole other show we all should have and discuss. But
the wallpaper show.
Well, yeah, because anyone out there who may not know this, I mean, I know you guys do, but any one of your favorite bands, I mean, pretty much 99.9% of bands out there, they all do corporate and private shows. They just have a price, and they'll play your barbecue.
Oh yeah.
You just gotta pay. You know?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of stuff goes on in Dubai, you know?
I've been because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of shows in Dubai. And so it was something like that. And so anyway, I ended up playing and then playing ended up to writing songs with him. And
wow.
Kind of got to be friends and sort of wrote a lot of stuff we wrote never saw the light of day, but a couple things did. And that's sort of how that all happened.
That is, like you said, and right place at right time.
Yeah.
And it's so many things happen that way, and you just you got to be out there in order for it to happen.
Yeah, no, it's true. I know a drum tech, a good friend of mine, drummer broke his leg. The drum tech was playing a show with Gwen Stefani the next day.
That's like Metallica's guitar tech when Hetfield got his arm cooked at that one show. They needed a guitar tech, or they needed a guitar player to fill in his spots, and it was the guy from what was the name? Metal Church, I think, was the guitar tech.
Oh,
and he was like, yeah, I know all the songs, so he finished out the tour. And it was like,
wow. I hadn't even heard that one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, Jeff, it's kind of funny because, Mark, your story kind of coincides with one of our older guests, Brad Divins. Now, Brad played for a heavy metal band called Wrathchild America, which later turned their name into Souls at Zero. And he'd said on the show that was the kind of the kiss of death of the band because, changing your name, especially when there was no social media back then, it just disappeared, right? So he got a gig, and if I remember correctly, it was at, a friend of his said, hey, I can't do sound at the Ozfest or something on the B stage. And he was like, can you fill in? He was like, yeah. And then what was it, he's 20 years, Jeff, or something like that.
Oh, he's probably been out there almost since.
Yeah, and he does Julio Iglesias now, and he's got Cyndi Lauper, and this guy has seen the world off of that one thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe it, and a lot of that has to do with the protection of sort of like the bubble around an artist or around a crew.
Yeah,
and once people are comfortable with you, you can keep that stuff going if it's what you want to keep doing. You can keep that stuff going. Ultimately, I decided it wasn't the best for me, but you can keep gigging and gigging and gigging. I mean, I got asked the other day to go fill in on playback again.
Wow.
And it's just, I've already told them I'm really not doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. But I mean, it's just because it's about the comfort level. When the artists or the band or whoever, when they get on the bus or they walk on stage or whatever it is, they like to see familiar faces.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the whole thing.
I'm trying to figure out this conversation though, and I'm sorry, Jeff, I didn't mean to cut you off. But it'd be like, oh God, is Seal on the phone again? Tell him I'm working on the car. I'll call him back later. I'll call him back. The guy just won't leave me alone.
Oh look, a blank check just showed up in a FedEx envelope.
And Seal signed it. There you go.
Yeah. No. Believe me, it wasn't like that. I mean, and even though he was extremely generous, I mean, he's one of the old school artists that believes in, like, when you're not working, that you keep people on retainer.
Jesus,
that's awesome.
That's a special, and that's a very small group of people.
You have to be big enough to do it, and even out of that big group, it's a small group of people that do it. And God bless the ones that do, man.
Can I ask one question though? Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, I know 2 or 3 Seal songs, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What kind of album sales did that guy do? I mean, it had to be crazy numbers because it's like, I think if he just wanted to play a stadium, he could do it, right?
I don't, you know what? I don't know. I mean, recently, it's been a long time since I was working in that camp. But recently, he's been doing like cover, like like throwback albums like you do, like classics and standards and things like that. It depends on what part of the world you're in. Okay. Because, I mean, the shows would be huge, like in Eastern Europe and South America.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be the two places.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does. And that's why everybody goes back. I mean, especially all the rock guys and whoever. And you might play, a 4,000 to 6,000 in the States, but it's like a 10,000 or more in different parts of the world.
Yeah. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
And that again, that topic comes up all the time with us. It's like there's so much more appreciation for music and live music outside of this country than there seems to be for the most part in this country, in just a general blanket statement.
Man, and I'll tell you another one. And of course now working on this Honeyjack, we've got one album or EP out already, and we're writing the second one. This is a whole other can of worms, but it's like ageism is a totally separate thing outside the United States. People don't think as much about like how old someone is when they're on stage as they do in the United States. They're like, oh, heck no, man, that guy looks like he's over 30.
Right.
It's like, man, anyone under 30 looks like they're 12 to me now. So I can't.
Right. Exactly. We have gotten pretty superficial here, and it just seems to affect.
And it's very 5 minutes too. And I don't know. There's I listen to other podcasts. That's how I keep relevant with this medium. Mm-hmm. And Carolla. Sometimes he says stuff and you kind of go, oof. But there is times when he says things and it does kind of make sense and it's kind of a double-edged sword. But he got into a whole thing about like, politicians now are like gearing towards kids. And he goes, look, it's we, the adults are the ones who pay for everything we do. And it seems like everything is getting almost dumbed down for like kids. And it's like when you go into a steakhouse, instead of hearing jazz, you hear Rihanna. And it's kind of a weird dynamic in this country. It doesn't happen elsewhere. It only happens like that here. And it's a weird thing. It's like, the youth is the future, but the adults are present, and that's what drives, the big machine. And it's almost like everything kind of gets geared for 13-year-old girls. Hence why we have a lot of crap music. If you really think about it, there's a lot of bad stuff.
There is, and you're right, and it's not that there isn't that music elsewhere necessarily. I think it's all. I mean, in Europe, you can be somewhere and hear something and go, "What in the world?"
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's more. It seems like the other options are given just as much. Given just as much real estate.
That's where, like, if we want to take an old band or even a new band, you could take like Iron Maiden will play for 30,000 people, sell it out every night in Europe.
Yeah.
And now granted they're from there, but like, my favorite Airborne, those guys can play any of those festivals and 70,000 people show up to see that band.
Wow.
I've seen that band here in Baltimore and there was 250 people tops in the bar.
Yeah.
And it was plenty of space open in that place. And I was like, how is this even possible? But because everything is 5 minutes here, how we've said on this show is that, it's sad that we won't have another Rolling Stones. And some guys are like, well, that's a good thing because you get to hear other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but, I don't know what it is. I kind of like those heroes, and
it's about development too. It's weird. I was randomly sort of, I was laid up in bed. I caught some bug or something. When you have an 8-year-old, sometimes you get stuff brought home. and it was the first time. Like I was down. I was just down and couldn't move. Watching stuff on TV or whatever. And I ended up watching randomly all of these old behind the scenes. They used to do on the bands. And I guess I didn't realize that REO Speedwagon had like tons of records before they even had Kevin Cronin, before that he was in the band, he was out of the band. Like before we had ever heard a hit, he had come and gone as a lead singer like twice, and they had all kinds of records. And what it was is that the label would just be like, well, you know, your fifth album wasn't that great, but we'll see how the sixth one performs. And you're like, what?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
So that's part of it. And thank God they did. I mean, because by the time they got to High Fidelity, it's like, that's awesome. You know, so we never would have heard that.
Right.
And
nowadays, there's not a snowball's chance in hell nowadays that would you would hear that. Because the longevity of the contract, is, if it's 2 albums, it's long,
Yeah,
it's a weird weird dynamic now, man.
Yeah.
And record contracts are weird because so with Honeyjack, we actually had a major label look at us and takes a couple songs, and they do their what's it called, like their testing, their all that stuff, and a lot of record deals or development deals, as they would call them, there was always development deals, but what they are now is that you actually come up with half of the money.
Right.
It's like, we're really interested, so why don't you meet us halfway?
Crowdfunding.
And it's like, wow, yeah, and that's what you do. And so that's why you see all these crowdfunding accounts. It's like, hey, there's a label that's going to help. But really, they're not even going to do that much. So it's all about DIY now, and there's a lot of ways to do it. And seriously, guys, being on things like this podcast, that is, it's big for someone trying to do it themselves, for even letting us on is amazing. And thank you again, even though I know we're not done, but it's just, it's such a DIY world. Oh, and by the way, we're 30 minutes in and have not talked about a guitar or an amp. So sorry about that.
No, it's all good, man.
Yeah. And we've said that anything, especially in today's medium, we want more people getting turned on to more of this, traditional style music. I mean, we've had everybody on. I mean, we've had guys who have never played a gig but are huge on YouTube, and they're doing, guitar parts for EDM songs. And, the kid will get 500,000 views, and hey, that's cool. If that kid can actually do that and he's making some kind of a living and, that thing's happening, that's awesome. But we also don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That everybody goes, oh, you can play anything. You can go from here to there. And it's like, yeah, but some of this older stuff, I don't mean older stuff, but I mean this traditional style stuff, like we said, when we walked around NAMM, it was not as many guitar players as we really expected, but they had an entire hall that they built within the 2 years that we weren't there that was completely dedicated to like software. There was not like any instrument sellers at all in there. And that thing is kind of like
it's systems and software.
Yeah. It's kind of, that's, and then we stand there and we see for 15 minutes, a guy take a microphone. Now, this was kind of a cool thing, and he could make it sound like any microphone that has ever been invented, right? But then we also walk to another part where a kid is sitting on a chair and waving his arms, and he's playing the drums, but there's nothing in front of him.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is that? Like that's not even... It's bizarro land.
Yeah. We're going backwards.
We had that in guitar world. It was called air guitar, but you were able to make a sound. So the first sounds in this air instrument came from a drummer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So, through the show, if we can promote guys like yourself and your bands, absolutely, because that's the key, is that we want music. It's like weird, especially like here. And Jeff, because you're out there with your bands, the places to play, it's like it isn't the same as it used to be.
Oh, that's for sure. That is for sure.
And that hurts, because if a band's trying to be original and they're trying to go out and they're trying to do their thing and get some kind of little bit of a discovery, whether it's local or even on a national level, I wouldn't even fathom that, man. I just wouldn't even. I think about it, I get a headache.
It's tough, and that's why we have to bring his band to our listeners. And, we did it with we did it when we had TJ on, and going to do it again now because I really enjoy the band, and let's find out how that band came together. So obviously it was post Seal, I would assume. Yeah,
it was kind of as that was winding down. Seal's shows were kind of slowing down. He was going into other stuff, and people just kind of peel off, one at a time, and it kind of just fades away. And towards the end of that, I was able to have a couple of co-writes on one of his original albums, and I'd always been, I came up as wanting to be a writer anyway, so I really wanted to get into be a songwriter and shop your songs, and why do I need to be up on stage or in an airport, in Dubai or whatever for the rest of my life. And so I really, really tried to break into the songwriting thing. And so I was shopping some songs, doing the old school shopping songs, Nashville, had some connections, was really hoping they'd pay off, or hoping my songs were good enough or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I had done a couple of country-ish tunes. I mean, I don't. It's hard to say what country is now. I mean, but it was they were southern-ish. And on one or two of them, I really needed someone to do some proper picking stuff. On my best day in a studio, I could fake it. It would be an ugly process, but I could get through it. and I was like, you know what, would be faster. Let me call TJ. I'd met him a couple times before, and I knew he was around and was great. And then I said, man, could you play on this demo? And I'm going to be pitching it to Nashville, and it really needs some legitimate chicken picking here in this section. He went, yeah. He emails me back, and his email says something like, it says, you mean like this? ? And I'm listening to it going, are you kidding? Yeah, that kind of like that, man. Yeah, that's really good. That'll work. One take, one try, And so that happened. I think I got him to play in another one that was really going to be for one of my solo projects. So I was going to do like a solo thing, and because I kind of didn't know what it was going to be. And then by the second time he did a solo for me, graciously, did some session stuff for me. We just kind of started hanging out more, and I was like, okay, hold on. I'm writing some stuff. He had some stuff he had written. I said, just please send me some demos, and let's see what's out there. And if nothing else, we'll pitch some songs. We really didn't think that it would be a band, and so we met to write. I had some of his demos and had put some vocals down and some other stuff down. And we cranked out like 2 songs really quickly, and then 2 more right after that. And it was like, okay, we got to do this.
Yeah, there's something here. And
so I kind of already had the name Honeyjack, and I was like, okay, well that'll work. And then we just got like the best musicians we knew around to help us do this stuff live. We kind of had it figured out before we kind of just before we had people playing it all at once. Mm-hmm. The drums were farmed out. You know what? This is weird. 2 of the tracks I had paid to have the drums done. They were done in a studio in Boston or New York. It was a guy named John Michelli, and he had played with Meatloaf.
Okay.
And a lot of other people, and it turns out that a lot of producers in the 90s used him because his studio is so amazing. And he would record, you just kind of tell him what you want, and you pay him, and it was amazing. It was like, okay, that was cool. And so 2 of the songs are by John Michelli. There's a shout out to him for sure. And he's definitely a guy who's been a journeyman and also has figured out a way to do stuff from home, which is kind of what, I'm trying to do. But,
well, you picked a good guitar player to
to do the chicken pick.
Because TJ is like a hidden gem.
Oh no, yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, no, it's, and I don't want him to be hidden. You know, I mean, I told him well, I mean, first of all, you're talking like upper 1% of how to play the guitar. I mean, it's you guys. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe that he came from what he came from, and then started doing the Danny Gatton type stuff with the ease that he did. I mean, that's virtuoso kind of stuff. That doesn't hey, I want to just start throwing left-handed today, and then you throw just as good.
And then you're in the pros. But no, it's and he would tell you. I mean, he probably either is aware or not aware or doesn't admit it. I mean, he definitely has the brain that can go there. Like it's funny about he can remember lyrics and movie lines in almost like a photographic way. So he's definitely kind of got that brain. But at the same time, he'll be the first to tell you, and this is sort of, note to all the rest of us and note to all the guitar players listening. He practices and plays all the time. I mean, he works at it. When he wants to master something, he works and works and works and works. So it's not, my problem is I'll sit down to do that. And in my whole life, I've sat down to go, okay, I'm going to learn this scale or I'm going to practice a song. And I can't do it. I don't stay on task. I end up writing a song. But I always just go, oh, that was cool. That's a song. And
that's a discipline, and I think, like you said, he's in that top 1% because, I've talked, Jeff, I talk to Greg Mara all the time.
Sure.
And he said, he goes, when you want to do something and you have to do it, he goes, he played bass for Paul Gilbert at a guitar clinic, and it was like his hero. So he wanted to make sure he knew all the stuff. He said for 2 months solid, he didn't put the bass down. He's not even a bass player.
Right.
He didn't put the bass down. And he said, when you go to do something like that, he goes, I know that's what you have to do. You have to just have it in your hands all day long, and you're just learning stuff.
It's true. It is. And then, those that do and have the capacity to even go that next step, then that's kind of where the natural capacity kind of comes in. But you can't rule out the whole part where it's just good old hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And deciding to try to master something. And, worst case scenario, you're not going to be in the upper 1%, but you're going to get a whole heck of a lot better.
Oh, so, sure.
Yeah,
and the thing is that, y'all don't have to be in the top 1% in order to be able to make your way in this field,
No, God, no.
There are plenty of people that are plenty good enough for what the occasion calls for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And just you need to be good enough and appropriate, and that's sometimes all that's required. And of course, everybody wants to get better, but that level is just fine as well. There's plenty of work at that level.
Oh no, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And if you're nice too, remember that. You gotta be nice.
Oh, yeah.
Be nice. Be nice. Be on time is really kind of most of it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And you can't ignore Seal's calls if you're not nice, because you got to
get the calls.
You won't get the call. See, after a while, then you can go, God, this guy just bugging me. But it's all the way up to that point that you got to be the nice guy. And I'm just kidding here, but
no, you're right.
We hear it all the time. I mean, every guy that we talk to that has either a utility guy or got the gig or whatever it is, they're just like, look, you got to be cool, because you're going to be on a bus with 4 other guys, and nobody wants to be on a bus with somebody that is a jerk. And it's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's kind of like life. It makes sense.
Right.
It is. It's a real compact sort of real exaggerated version of life. I mean, you really are. You're living, and it's. I got news for you, man. It's more than 4 other people. Sometimes.
Most of the time, that's true.
Yeah.
It's 4 other people if you're a duo.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's it. So, all right. So yeah, the drums are farmed out. Am I wrong in assuming that the bass is your brother?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. On the album, I might even play bass on one. I don't remember if TJ did or not, but definitely Paul, my brother Paul Summerlin, is on there, and he's an amazing bass player and musician all around. But when there was a brief time or a 2-year period when we were with Seal, that the band expanded. Like he wanted a lot of people on stage because he was doing this soul stuff, and we had horns and we had all this stuff. And he said, "Man, I need a guy who can play keys, who can play bass, and a guy who can sing vocally and try to, basically keep up with me." And I'm going, "Oh, okay, wow." So, and I was like, "Well, I only know one person," and I was in a hurry. I was like, "I only know one person that can do that, and that's my brother Paul." So, Paul toured with us for a long time as well. And so when I did the Honeyjack thing, and we wanted to get it out live, he was a natural go-to, to fill that slot. So he sings and plays bass in Honeyjack.
Nice.
Oh, look at that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys argue and fight and stuff when you were kids? Because I always ask that question because I'll circle back around.
A little bit. I mean, I think it always ended in good fun. I mean, like it may have started bad. I think it goes the other way with most people. They start something fun and it ends up bad.
Like the Black Crowes or the drummer and the bass player from Anthrax. One of their behind the musics, Scott Ian said, "So we're in the studio and we're rehearsing, and next thing I know, those two are fighting on the floor, and to the point where people had to get involved, and then there was a chair thrown."
Wow.
And he said that it got so bad at sometimes that they were just like, they had to put somebody between them to make sure it didn't even start because they wanted each other that bad. And then they ultimately, they worked out their differences. Unfortunately, the guys in Black Crowes, I think, are still kind of feuding, which would be nice if they could get themselves squared away. But it's always interesting with brothers, man. They will fight to the death. And then if somebody tries to do anything to one of the brothers, the others are coming in, man.
Oh, yeah. It's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, we never, any sort of arguments or whatever would never get that heated. And usually they wouldn't last that long. But yeah, definitely. If anyone, says anything,
yeah. Well, that makes sense. And of course, he wouldn't be getting the second call for the next band if you guys,
that's true.
Couldn't get along on a tour bus.
Yeah.
So, so this is the point that we get into a little bit of gear, because I want to find out how what you play and how you record, and are they different rigs, same rigs, kind of thing. So give us a little gear history here.
They are different. About half of the Honeyjack album is probably a mic on an amplifier. Now that might be one of TJ's. I think he told you about some of those last week, and then I've just got my amps are pretty lame. I've just got a couple of solid state little Fenders, but you can make them sound really cool, if you just take the time. But so, air moving happened, but a lot of it, just so your listeners know and you guys know, a lot of the guitar sounds are going through, plugins.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's sort of, that might be a dirty word on Amps and Axes, or I don't really know, but man, when you're in a pinch and you're getting stuff done fast. It can happen. And I think that when you know how to do that stuff and then you pair it with where maybe one side of the guitar, there was air moving, there's a mic in a room.
Right.
There's a lot of that kind of trickery, for lack of a better word, on that particular album all throughout. And I played guitar-wise, most of it is a Gibson 355, so like a 335, but I guess it's got the gold hardware and the Bigsby and all that stuff. It's a custom
cool
shop. I've always been Gibson. I've just kind of kind of started with Gibson and never other than an occasional Tele, and you guys were talking about how versatile Teles were last week as well, and I love Telecasters, but I've always just gravitated towards Les Pauls. I mean, it's probably because of Ace Frehley or Alex Lifeson, or Tom Schultz,
or you hate your spine.
No. Well,
that's why he's playing in 330.
The 355.
It's one.
Whatever it is.
355 types.
355,
Or 335 because I did, man. I had a 1977.
There you go.
Les Paul.
That's a boat anchor.
Oh my God! I mean, is there a heavier guitar? I mean,
no.
So I played that for a while, and then I started recording with it only, and then I don't think I ever picked it up for 10 years, and so eventually I just sold it. Because I just kind of got to a point where if I wasn't using stuff, I don't want a lot of stuff, and it's so easy for all of us guitar people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started getting rid of stuff, and that Les Paul, I mean, I love that guitar, but it's not like I miss it. And once I started playing 335s, it looks just as cool. I like them better in a lot of ways, and they're definitely lighter, and the neck feels similar to me, and some of it even sounds similar if depending on how you play.
Sure.
Actually, I think the 335s are more versatile to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean they have a more of a, because they're semi-hollow, they have more of a breath to them. They're not quite as in your face kind of thing, but they're nicer in different ways for sure.
Yeah, I mean you can crank up the overdrive on one of those and get just as much done. And so once I realized that, after my back was damaged,
if you got a corrective spine surgery,
yeah. So after. There's a part of your story that's missing. Yes, well, I was in the hospital after.
Right.
But no, and it's funny. We're talking about plugins and things like that. These might be naughty words in the guitar world, but as far as just tools that people can use, when I was with Seal, we didn't have amps on stage. So, I mean, because it's about Seal. It's not like when you go to an Eric Johnson show and you want to see it's about not just his playing, but it's about the gear. I mean, there's people that want to know what kind of batteries he uses in his effects pedals. So when you get to that sort, when it's about that, then you give people that. But when it's about a Seal concert, it's not about me. It's about the guy on the poster,
Right.
So man, we would be going direct, and we used a lot of Line 6 stuff, and it was great for it. I sometimes would use a Variax because we'd have to change tunings mid-song.
Wow.
Yeah, so you were at the cusp of the modeling thing, because when he was, really doing his deal, that was it. There was nobody else, was there? No, there wasn't anybody.
I don't think so. I mean, it was Line 6 was absolutely the pinnacle, I think, at that point.
Yeah,
because I don't think there was much of anything else.
The only thing,
Frankels and the Kemplers, I don't think were.
No, they weren't even around. But the only thing that would have been close to it, but you couldn't do it, was Amp Farm, because that was the plug-in world at that time. They were like one of the first, but you couldn't. Yeah. What are you going to do? Take a laptop out with you? I mean, I say that today, but
well, right today.
Yeah, you might, But no, it was, and we would, so once we would start to learn some of the older material, and there'd be alternate tunings, really cool alternate tunings for a lot of his old stuff. You'd have to switch to an acoustic sound for about 8 bars.
So you're using a Variax. That's cool.
So I would use a Variax, and then when he got into the Soul Covers stuff, he had a pair of Guild Dwayne Eddies.
Wow.
The big blondes.
Yeah.
And he had 2 of those, and so anything that was in duplicate worked for a tour, So, and they looked cool. So I played his Guild Dwayne Eddies for one tour for some of the soul songs, and then once I got into the 335s, I really never looked back. And then once I started writing heavier stuff with Honeyjack, I kept the 335 because I thought it was great. So that's kind of where that went.
Yeah, I really think it sounds, I mean, from what I heard, And the video that has popped up for me twice that I really enjoy, the song "Hate Being Right."
Oh, hated being right about you.
Hated being right about you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
Thanks.
I mean, I don't want to use this word in a derogatory way. I want to use it in a very good way. That's a freaking great pop song.
Oh no, that's that.
Some people think that's a bad word. It's not.
No. I actually, that's the biggest compliment I think anyone could give, and I appreciate that. Because I understand. I mean, I know what you mean. You're like, it's pop.
It's the hook. I mean, it's got the hook.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, it's really cool, and that appears to be live. I'd love for you to hear the album cut as well. But yeah, that's a live one. I mean, that's through the board.
That's a board feed, huh?
I love the heavy tremolo, but both guitars, all three guitars sound great. Everything sounds great on it. It's a great live recording.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, that is through the board. I mix everything through Logic.
Okay.
And just, to shout out to the people that were there, Arlie Stiles was running the board. Brian Watt was playing the third guitar. So we have three guitars. We just want it to be three guitars. And
you need another drummer. You could be Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not opposed to it. But our drummer, Stephen Boudreau, might disagree with that. But no, and what's funny is, and I know we're running long on time, but you guys started a conversation last week and I was sort of in and out of the office while TJ was talking to you guys. And it's one of my, it's a topic that needs to be addressed at some point, in everyone's life that's interested in this kind of music. You were saying that it almost seems like, especially with Southern rock or with certain rock music, there's almost like this one version where it's a Led Zeppelin-y type thing, or there's a very prog rocky type speed thing, and that there's not a ton in between. And I don't know if you remember talking about that, but
yeah. I remember because I had to listen to the show 3 times as I was editing.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that because and it's kind of true. I mean, there's some bands now that are kind of doing the older stuff, which is cool. Mm-hmm. But the middle stuff is almost still like, oh, wait a minute, what are you doing? Like you're playing that kind of fast, and it's like, because it's a weird, man, that world is like separated too. It is opposite ends of the spectrum, because I hear, I listen to some heavy music, and man, some of these guys, I'm like, I don't know what their right hand is doing, but I would think that their wrist would just explode at some point. And it's, and of course, and it's like, well, we have the new 9-string out.
Right.
Oh, I know. When I see a 7-string, I still like triple take. I'm like, wow.
Something looks wrong. What? Oh, yeah, there's an extra string.
By the way, and not to go off too much off topic, Neil Schoen, if you just happen to cruise by this show and you're listening, I don't know what you were doing the other night, but playing your 9-string Ibanez on Instagram.
Oh, I missed that.
You're Neil Schoen. You don't have to do 6 is fine for you. You kind of made your mark. I don't know if you know it or not, but you play in a band called Journey.
Yeah.
They had a couple hits in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s.
Doing fine.
Yeah. Those kids have a future.
Yeah. I was like,
they might go somewhere.
He's got a custom Ibanez 9-string. I don't even know if they make a 9-string. I think they make.
Look. Hey, if someone that has had that degree of success still wants to challenge themselves,
I guess.
I mean, who are we to complain?
Look, he's getting up there in his age, and if he starts banging his head like some of those guys in Slipknot, this could be traction time. I'm just looking out for his best interest.
There you go.
9-string. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I mean,
I don't.
Yeah.
Don't Stop Believing is going to sound a lot different next time you hear it.
It will. But you know what? I mean, maybe now there'll be like some new generation that changes everything. Who knows? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, his name's called Tosin Abasi. Was it yeah, right? Tosin Abasi, right? Isn't that his name, Jeff?
Yeah.
That guy. I don't know if he does play in any time signature.
Yeah. I have checked out some of his stuff. I know that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, he's like he's like starting
Mark,
new music.
Mark, you were saying they're like in the middle. There's
I'm sorry.
Well, it's great because the point you're just making is part of it. And again, I'm not going to condemn anyone for doing either, but it seems like people's ears have gotten trained to go, they hear a band like us, and really what we're doing is not, we ain't reinventing the wheel, man. It's like where does a band like you said Journey or Bad Company or Boston or Aerosmith or 38 Special or whatever, where do those bands come out now? It's just called classic rock. So if a new band comes out and sounds like that, you can't be called classic rock because you're new. So it's just interesting. That music's never really been replaced, in my opinion.
I don't think it can be.
It's. I mean, when it came out, it's called classic rock now, but when it came out, it was rock. It was that umbrella was,
and it was pop, and it was on the radio.
Actually,
right, and they both fell under that umbrella, and that was a mighty big umbrella.
Yeah, and now if you really think about it,
umbrellas that the size that they put in a drink.
Yes,
but if you really think about it, back then it was even called hard rock. Remember that?
Yeah,
because it was more of a rebellious type,
But it was all. Everybody listened to it all because it all fell under that one big umbrella. It wasn't country because country was the twangy traditional country. It wasn't jazz because it wasn't jazz. It wasn't classical because it wasn't classical. Okay, there are a couple of other categories you could put things on there, but most other things fell under this huge rock umbrella. Whether it was prog, whether it was metal, or whether it was Southern, or it was all rock. And now it's all so fragmented. It's like,
Well, and now it benefits you to find the fragments, and it's a tough one. I mean, because we're a rock band and we're from Arkansas, so that makes us a Southern rock band. But when and I figured that should be enough information that anyone needs. But when you search for Southern rock, if you happen to just go look for Southern rock, it does, and I like a lot of it, but it does tend to drift into that part of Lynyrd Skynyrd that was more like jam band ish.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Where the B3 is out and it's a little different, and and that's great. But there's more. But Southern. What about heavier? Or what about Molly Hatchet?
Yeah, I was going to say, what about Molly Hatchet? Those guys were rock and roll.
Oh yeah, and they even got heavier as they kept going.
Yeah,
but it's weird. I mean, again, it just sounds like world men complaining about how things have changed. But it is tricky when you're going. Here's this new thing. They go, oh, what is it? And I say, well, it's Southern rock. And then it doesn't sound. It sounds more like what was on the radio in the '70s, or some.
Well,
of the
that's
80s.
a good thing because a band like Blackberry Smoke is in that category. And they get played on country stations.
Right.
Which is even more confusing because it's like you could put a lot of their music on a regular rock and roll station and it would do well. But it's like they seem to, it's like because, well, of course, we've had this conversation too. Country now has rap artists. So I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah. I don't know what's going on in that world. They've done some crazy stuff. I'm sure that Chet Atkins and some of the older guys are probably spinning in their grave. But because some of it is like, wow, there's nothing country about this song.
Yeah, no, it's like again, it's fine. I'm not gonna bash on someone too bad. For what they do.
Not at all. I mean, they're doing.
But I will bash on the fact that just change the name of the genre, because it ain't it ain't country.
I agree. Yeah,
and I think that's what you're saying. It's like just call it something else, because I thought country was, Conway Twitty and Dolly Parton and.
Not too many years ago, what was being called country was what we used to call Southern rock, and we've had this conversation before. But now it's not anymore because it's morphed into what everybody puts under the heading of bro country, and that is insanely formulaic.
Yeah,
and come on, somebody get an original idea. And I realize, it's fun for the public to listen to, and, maybe, a lot of the lyric is associatable and things like that. But it just, there's no real new ground being churned up. It's like, oh, that formula worked for that song. Let's do 30 others because we know it's going to work, and the machine's going to put the money behind it. And
look,
that's what's on the radio.
Here's how I look at it. When you're watching the CMT, the Country Music Awards, right? Mm-hmm. Every band should have a pedal steel player up there. That's how it works. I don't know, that one guy, that old dude that's sitting in the back, way in the corner, that has like more talent than the entire band. That guy has to be on every single stage with those bands, or I just look at it and go, well, where's the steel player?
Oh, no.
Because you're used to hearing that little thing, and it to me, it's like, that's the staple, right? That's the fiddle player, those guys. I see these bands now and I'm like, there's a DJ on that stage. There's a guy spinning records.
Most of it is good. For me,
you can tap your foot to it. It's not bad music. Right. It's just
if there's talent, I'm just saying most music in general that's made by people that actually play an instrument is, it's better than not. But if there's talent in the band and there's good songwriting, and like Honeyjack, if it's a little bit Southern, but it's got a hook, which a lot of tunes used to have. You got jam stuff, and then you got stuff. There's actually a very well written song with a really catchy hook that you can get your teeth into. So if there's talent, there's good songwriting, and there's a hook, I think it's really good. I think it's great. And that's I think that's what Honeyjack falls under.
Well, so. I appreciate that. I hopefully we can find a lot more people that feel the same way you do. I think we are, and I think we will, and it's certainly been great to be a part of, and is great to be a part of. And I think TJ mentioned, I think you'll like the new batch of songs even better.
Cool.
And of course, working with him and all those other guys is awesome, and we're lucky, and we just got to keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man. Keep doing what you're doing, because obviously it's something that you want to do and something that makes you happy, and that's a very important part of life. You can't go through life hating what you do or doing something that somebody else wants you to do 24/7. You got to try to do what makes you happy and try to find your own way doing that. So I'm glad you guys are doing that, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad you guys are doing that.
Well, thank you.
I forgot when we asked TJ, but touring, or did we ask him? Touring wise, are you planning anything outside of your general area? Any plans?
No,
the Northeast?
No, nothing yet. We'd like to. Obviously, you got to make the column at the bottom add up and make.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And we'd love to do something like that. And also the Honeyjack album, it's called 8-track. It's actually gotten a little bit of spin over in the UK.
Oh, cool.
And it's gotten played on some stations and getting reviewed like on some online things that have a lot of followers and all that stuff. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd love to get it over there, because I think people in Europe and the UK seem to like Southern rock, loud guitars and stuff still. So
cool.
I'd love to do that.
Well, and the other thing is that being that they're not so 5 minutes, that's not everybody, but for a good portion, when they latch onto a band, it's like a lifelong adventure. And as long as the band is still out there doing their thing, right, they will continue to do that. Where, like we said before, is like that kind of falls off here.
It's flavor of the week.
It's kind of flavor of the week thing. So, it's going to be a little bit hard to drive the bus across the Atlantic, but
yeah,
if you got to do it, you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, we had friends in a band called Mystic Force back in the 80s and 90s that was from this area. And, it'd be like, oh, they're playing our local, Hammerjacks was the big bar. And that would be it. And it'd be like the rest of their time it was over in Europe. And they were huge over there. I mean, you'd hear them around here outside of this state a little bit, nothing real big. But over there, they were huge. And it was like, really? But it just because of the way that it worked. A lot of people I know
are like that. A lot of bands.
Yeah.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So, well, Mark, good luck with that. And maybe, whatever is more bottom line friendly, either Europe or northeast of the United States. We hope it's the latter, and we hope to be able to catch you at some point in time. But keep doing what you're doing, man, and much continued success.
Well, thank you, and thanks to you guys for having us on 2 weeks in a row. And,
no, it's all good, man. I'm just going to tell everybody out there, go on YouTube and find the Honeyjack cut, Hated Being Right About You. Just give it a listen. I think you're going to love it.
And I tell you what, we're going to, same thing, all the website stuff is going to live on this show in
perpetuity.
Yes. And, definitely go out, check it out. And, you gotta throw the support down there, guys. It's more than just listening to the show. You got to go. It's a couple clicks, and then you're going to be there, so you'll be fine.
That's right. That's right. So support local music, because all music starts out local.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's right. So,
and they got a flamethrower for a guitar player, so definitely check it out.
Oh my God, yeah.
worth the price of admission, I promise you.
How did you step into that pot of gold? We have to have that show one day.
So is the singing, songwriting. So we'll leave it at that,
sir.
Mark. Thank you so very much for being on, man. Have a great rest of the evening, safe travels, and continued success to you, your brother, and everybody else involved in Honeyjack.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And there you have the story.
It's pretty cool, man.
It is pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
Those guys are awesome, and it was one of those things I read. I read his bio, and their manager, PR lady, reached out. I think it's his wife, and I was like, this guy played for Seal, and I was like, hey, there's a lot of curious stuff about Seal that I would love to know.
Musical director,
Yeah. And
that's somebody you trust. You go, here's what I want to do. Get it done.
That is, and I know I said it in the interview, but it's like, I just want to know people just don't hand you record contracts and money in that time that he was doing it. The album sales that Seal must have been crazy to still sustain this life that the guy has pretty much lived. Now, granted, I'm sure that the gigs now are smaller here, but, like you said, over in other places, that he's huge still.
Absolutely.
It's just amazing to me, that kind of thing. And then, he made up his decision that he wanted to do his own deal. And like I said, he found a guitar player that is insane. I mean, We've talked to a lot of guys, guitar player wise. Nobody that we've talked to does that kind of turnaround from genres and does it as well as he does. Now, here's the side piece that we didn't even talk about, and I can bring it up. TJ sent us a link to the Yngwie song that he did called I'm a Viking. And I thought, here's going to be TJ playing some backing track. No. He's in a studio with other musicians, and they're pulling the feed off of this thing.
Oh, wow.
And I will put this up on the website. It is crazy what this guy can do on a guitar. And I was like, God almighty. I mean, he was doing like signature Yngwie licks and all this other stuff. Now, that's one thing. But this other stuff that he does on this other is just crazy. And Mark is not a bad songwriter, obviously, because, I mean, he's the guy who sings it, and he's, involved with the writing. And it's like, wow, what a combination.
That's I think they're a really good team together.
Yeah.
As far as complementing each other's playing. And, yeah, it's I think it works great. I think it works really well.
Yeah, man. And you know, look, these are the kinds of things that I hope that take off, because, you know, I don't wish any bad luck on any of the artists we've had on here, but it's these kind of things that it's like, man, what would these guys have done in the 70s, right? Because it would have been a record company behind them. And, you know, that was a different world, man. That's how you got your Van Halens and your Aerosmiths and your, you know, your different bands, Bad Company and bands like that. It was because there was a guy who probably did a lot of coke, who saw these guys. He had big collars and a lot of gold chains, but he saw them and he knew that he could push this thing because there was this magic that was happening. And I think these guys have that kind of magic. Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool. So, you know, all the best to them, and you know, maybe there'll be something more than
let's hope
just local success.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, hey, we got fans in Australia.
That's true. That's true.
Honeyjack on the Australian tour.
There you go. There you go.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Well, I'll take one of my projects out to go open for him.
There you go.
That would be awesome.
Now
I just before we quit, I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend Mr. John Palumbo and everybody else in Crack the Sky. Just signed a new record deal.
Look at that.
And they've got 2 new ones coming out in the near future. So get ready for some new Crack the Sky on a new record label. So
that's going to be cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, a little prog-ish, little prog stuff.
Yeah, it's. I was talking to my friend Dave DeMarco, who I play in another band with, and he was saying he thinks it's some of the best stuff that JP has written in a long time. So
there you go.
I can't wait to hear it, man.
Well, you know what? We'll make sure that goes priority 1 when that all starts developing and getting finalized, because that band missed their opportunity back in the day. It was like way too good for what was something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was crazy that band.
Some bands just somehow missed the last rung on the ladder.
It is so weird.
Almost there, and some other ones that didn't deserve it kind of jumped a rung or two. And it's
And to our listeners, if you ever get a chance, or you know, research it out, Crack the Sky, you will be blown away by when it was done. What years these were recorded in, and just the level of talent in the band. I mean, and guess what? They haven't missed a beat. I mean, you know, you see one of their reunion shows, which are always local here. It's like, whoa, you know, like, God almighty, these guys have they played with each other every day, or is this just how it works? Because the level of musicianship is insane in that band.
Yeah, it's great. Ricky's one of my favorite guitar players.
He's
Bobby's
monster.
no slouch, but Ricky is one of my favorite guitar players.
Ricky is like a wind-up toy that never stops.
Right.
I mean, it's just like it just goes insane. And I'm like, there's no way a Strat A is going to stay in tune. B, I don't even know how in the world, you know, you got to see it to understand it. The guy is like just gyrating like nobody's business. And when he goes into a solo, you just don't believe that he could not make a mistake. You know, I mean, because he is very animated when he plays, man.
Right, he's totally animated, and the thing is, you know, for me, he was, you know, not that there aren't 1,000 kids out there that are 100 times more proficient on the neck of a guitar than most of us are at this point.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
but what he did when he did it. And I know I've said this before, we got to wrap, but, you know, he for one point back then was playing in another band as well who had a couple of hits on the radio. And the first time I heard the one song on the radio, I heard 2 notes and I went, that's Ricky.
Yeah, very distinctive.
It was just totally distinctive.
Yeah.
And what he was, the little riffs that he would pull off were just.
And his sound, you know, his sound was very original.
Yeah, he's just a great rock player.
Yeah, great band too. So we'll keep you posted on that. Yes, and congratulations
to
guys.
the Crack the Sky guys.
Yeah, man.
We'll just leave it there.
That's right. So until next time, my friend.
when we will uncover yet more unknown talent.
There you go. I'm Mick Marcelino.
That's right. And I'm Jeff Bober.
We're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter at Amps and Axis. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaxiscast.com. Thanks for listening.